Welcome back to Rust Order Garage. After a couple weeks, getting rid of some LS donors, scrapped out a Suburban, and what else? Another Denali. Yeah, Denali. So, those are gone. Now I can get back on this thing. Alright, so like I said, it's been a couple weeks, scrapped out a couple donors. I know you don't care about that, but that's why I can't work on this car every day. There's other things to do too, and not just car stuff. But finally back on this thing. Now, the car is, I guess, now a car after 2 years of messing around with this thing. Just a reminder, this was supposed to be a joke. This was supposed to be, let's just throw it in the garage, drop an LS in it, put a turbo on it, and just go beat the snot out of it. Didn't really plan on doing all the work I did. I don't know if I really planned on fixing the floors, the trunk, everything I did on this car, but I kind of just, that's the way I do things. I kind of went overboard. So now I'm caught up to where probably most of you guys are, who start with normal cars and not pieces of crap like this. So that said, now comes the build within the build. Now's all the turbo stuff. Like I said, for years, I've been wanting to do this. It looks so simple. Well, we're going to find out if it's simple, because I'm a newbie. So don't look at this as like I know what the hell I'm doing. I've never done a turbo before. All I have is experience on wrenching and researching every single thing I could find, and then trying to pick through what's real and what isn't, because half the information I have out there is garbage. So you're going to see, in reality, how much is it as far as work to actually do this. I see people doing it in like no time at all, slapping things together and they're done, and maybe it runs for a while, maybe it explodes in a week. I don't know. The goal for this is to last. But get the point. I'm a newbie, going to slap a turbo on this thing and see what happens. This is not a YouTube type build. I call them YouTube builds, where you build a car, you start it, you drive it around the block, and you never see the car again, and it never really gets used. I don't have time to build stuff for no reason. I'm building this for me. These cars are going to get built whether I had the YouTube channel or not. So this is real life. Going to try to put this together and make it actually last. And to do that, I have a few things I have to do. So let's go over the list of all the things. Most of them are pretty quick, but some are not, to get this turbo installed. Okay, this is the list of items that I can think of off the top of my head for the build within the build. This is all stuff for the turbo. I had to go into the second row. For injectors, we all know we need bigger injectors to make more power. I went the low buck way, and I'm going to use decapped truck injectors. Bought a set of 8 that were already flowed and ready to go. They're going to go on, and they flow, I think, around 75 pounds. I have to check the spec sheet with it. Got to change spark plugs. We're going to go to a colder plug and a tighter gap. Mount the turbo, big deal. That's going to bolt up to the turbo header we have. Oil feed, have to run an oil feed line. Map sensor, going to switch to a 2-bar map sensor for this, because I don't plan on more than 10 pounds. Intercooler is mounted, but I still have to do all the plumbing. IAT, I have to reload the intake air temperature sensor to the intake manifold. Wastegate is mounted to the header, but no plumbing on it. Blow-off valve, that'll go with all the intercooler plumbing. Vac lines, I have to put a vacuum block on this thing and run all the vacuum lines. Fuel system, that's a big one, and we're going to talk about that. Fuel pressure gauge, I do want to put a fuel pressure gauge on this to hopefully monitor while I'm driving the car and make sure we don't go lean. Exhaust, that'll be another fun one. That's going all the way out the back of the car, hopefully. The hood is just there because I have to do it. Wideband, I have a wideband gauge, but I do not have a wideband sensor. I have to buy one. Turbo screen or air filter. Got to buy an air filter or something to mount on the turbo. and of course the boost gauge. So I think the list has everything. Again, not a turbo guy. I wish I had more subscribers. so guys out there who did this stuff could give me a hand. Let me know what I'm doing or doing wrong here. So I'm going to follow that list, and I guess we're going to see what happens. As far as the fuel system, that's the first thing I'm going to do. If this was just an NA engine and this was running like it is, it'd be done in a couple hours. No big deal. I'd just be running, you know, nylon lines from that tank up to the engine and we're finished. Going to do a little different. Going to add a small surge tank in the back, mainly because one big reason I've seen people blow these things up is they go lean. Don't have enough fuel in the tank, accelerate, fuel washes away from the pickup, get air, that little air will go lean, make you go lean, and pop, there goes your ring lands, you're done. So I'm going to use the tank that we have in the car, the fuel pump, the stock fuel pump in that tank would have been good enough to use. But what I ended up doing was I had a Evil Energy 255 pump, and I have a bunch of Evil Energy fittings and stuff. I bought a bunch of that stuff. Hopefully it's good. Price seemed reasonable. Hopefully it's not garbage. But I replaced the stock fuel pump on my 95 Caprice sending unit with a 255, which again would not have been needed because all you need is a stock pump to feed the surge tank, but whatever, I had it, it's in. I'm running what looks like a real Bosch 044 that I bought. I didn't buy the $30 eBay special. I tried to buy a real Bosch one, and you'll see that in the video when I install it in the surge tank. So I have a 255 feeding the Bosch 044 in the surge tank, a whole bunch of AN line to run, which normally I don't ever run AN line, but I'm doing it. I'm using PTFE AN lines because I'm thinking, you know, if this works out, maybe I'd like to try to run E85. All E85 does is let you run more timing. So it turns out that the base tune I have is the 125 operating system for the P01, P01 PCM, which is exactly what I wanted to use because that is the, call it 99 to 02 Gen 3 flex fuel operating system. So it has tables where if you run 85, you can run extra time. It'll, you know, you can set it to run more timing and such, because that's all E85 does. It's no magic fuel. It just has very high octane and lets you run more timing and supposedly an extra 100 horsepower. Is it needed? I have no idea. But I'm going to try to set the fuel system up so that if I want to run E85 in the future, I can. So I'm going to run all PTFE AN fittings, PTFE hoses, AN hose, the matching Evil Energy fittings, some of this stuff I got at a swap meet, believe it or not, and it is all still Evil Energy stuff, so it should work. I'm going to try to find somewhere I have a content sensor off an 02 Suburban, so we're going to put that in there. And what do I got? So I got there. The surge tank is an eBay special. Fuel pumps are done. I went over what I'm using there. And I think that's about it. Inline filter I also got, which is an Evil Energy filter. And my only concern about using this aftermarket stuff is the O-rings. You know, aluminum's aluminum, who cares? But the surge tank has 3 fittings that go to AN6 that are O-ring seal. Those concern me. The fuel filter, I'm sure, has an O-ring seal to hold the housing together. That concerns me because so far from what I found of Chinese junk, they don't know how to make rubber. So I need to keep an eye on those and make sure they don't start degrading or leaking from the fuel. The fittings on the surge tank, I've been looking, and I think I can just get a 14 millimeter crush washer like you'd use on an oil pan drain plug and replace those O-rings and get me metal seals. That'll take care of that. Fuel filter, not much I can do there. I'm just going to have to keep an eye on that. But I'm going to put it in as I got it with the O-rings on the surge tank. And, you know, we'll see how it goes. We'll keep an eye on it, and hopefully things don't leak. All right. So after all that rambling, it is time to get the turbo section of this project started. I'm going to do the fuel system first. That's the most, well, one of the most involved, at least as far as I'm concerned. Not that necessarily difficult, just time consuming. A lot of lines to make. So let me show you what I'm doing, and I guess we'll come back here and there as things get progressing. All right, so work is going to start in the trunk. And why do I have a tire in the trunk? Well, streetcar. First thing I had to make sure was that a spare tire would fit in here, and then figure out where I'm going to put the surge tank, which I'm going to put back here in the corner. And believe me, I spent hours agonizing over whether I should put that tank there. Should I put it up there? Should I put it over there? Should I put it back here? Or should I just put it right in the engine compartment, which I almost pretty much did. And then I said, it just didn't look good, and I'd rather not have it up there. So we're going to put it in the back like this. So it's going to be an AN6 line, and here's what we have here. This is the fuel pump outlet of my stock sending unit for the wagon tank, which I cut back because it was rusty, and then put the GM type connect flares on there with the Master Cool kit. And I'm going to have to cut this out a little bit more to get some room for the lines to go under. But I wanted it like this. Like I said, originally this sending unit, these lines went down under the floor. But I wanted to be able to get to this fuel pump without having to drop the tank. And the lines were rusty in that end anyway, so I just cut them back and redid the end. So whatever. There's going to be an AN6 line out of this pump, going under the car, coming back around, and feeding the surge tank. There's going to be a return line out of the surge tank that's going to go around and come back to the tank. So there. And this is going to be the vent. The third line for the surge tank, AN6, is a return from the engine. And then I'm going to run AN8 out of this Bosch 044, and that's going to feed the engine. So, and I also got, and this stuff I went over, I think I went over this in the video. I did a quick video of installing the tank, installing the pump in here, and I will show that to you. But basically, it's an 044 Bosch with a sock on the bottom as a filter, a check valve, AN8. It's going to go under the car, feed the fuel filter, and then go to the engine. Then return from the engine to the E85 content sensor. And then from there, back to the surge tank. And then the other two surge tank lines go back to there. So let me throw up the video where I installed the 044. All right, so I've got my eBay surge tank here that I'm gonna install somewhere. I'm still fighting myself over where I should put it, but I want to try to get it at least pre-assembled. I put my AN6 fittings on that came with it. They just have a little O-ring that goes on when they install. I bought what I hope is a real Bosch 044. Sorry, still can't talk because of my mouth being screwed up. This guy should be a real one, I hope. Now, these come with a screen on the bottom, and I have read that they don't need one of these. But I bought one anyway because, say something smells like mineral spirits. I bought one anyway because I didn't know about that. I don't know if it really is a big deal. I bought this adapter fitting that threads into the bottom of it. And then this guy will snap on the bottom. I think the reason they say not to use one is because they're maybe they're mounting them external of a tank and they don't want another inline filter, but I don't see how this could hurt. So just snug this up. It's got a crush washer, so no need to kill it. And then we got the sock here. Let's see. Does it fit on? Feels like it will with some persuasion. There it goes. There you go. So that's pretty neat. And then, before I put it in, I have this little pack of hardware that came with the surge tank. And there's an O-ring in here that I should have put on the pump first. And now I'm just going to have to wrap it around it and get it down under the other lip. There we go. And that'll be the seal for this in here. Like that. And turn it so that which way is the sock going? The pump's a little offset in the tank, so I'm putting the sock in that direction. All right, then we have a collar for the top. Doesn't look like it matters which way it goes. And then we got little socket head screws and lock washers. We get those all installed. Pretty simple setup. All right, so the pump's installed. That's relatively painless. Next thing I have to deal with is the outlet. Now these come with this weird fitting on the end. I don't know what would normally connect to that. So I'm taking that off. It's a check valve, I know that, but I don't know what kind of fitting would go connect to that end. So what I bought is a check valve, just like I removed, except it goes to AN8. So in place of this guy, I've got this guy. I don't know, it's been a while. I don't know where I bought this stuff, but I know it was either eBay or Amazon, but it says Star on it. And it's made for this. And that will give me an AN8 fitting out of the pump. All right. The surge tank's mounted. I actually bought a riv nut kit. God, I hate Amazon. It makes it so easy just to buy whatever. I've been waiting for years to buy one of these because I could never really justify it. But prices have come down now enough where it seemed like it was worth buying one. And yeah, they work great. I just put 2 5/16 rib nuts in the floor here. That worked awesome. So that is in. Next thing, be a whole lot of fuel lines. All right, here's what we got so far. And this will be it for today. I got my feed out of the pump, runs under the car, up through there, over to the surge tank, and the return from the surge tank to the pump in the tank. And I started the return out of here that's going to run back up to the engine. That's just hanging under the car. That'll go down to the content sensor, which I have to locate. Got to find one. Still got to put a grommet there, clamps, all that kind of good stuff. But at least progress is being made. So as long as these fittings don't leak, because they went together pretty easy. Hopefully they don't leak. And I may make a cover for all of this over here. I don't know yet. We'll see. There definitely will be a cover over this, and a spare tire will mount to that. But that is going to be it for today. Tomorrow I will try to locate the content sensor, get that mounted, and continue with the lines. So we'll see you tomorrow. All right, it's the next day, and already things have gone sideways. I found my content sensor. Check this out. Look at, it's cracked. I've never seen anything like that, but I guess I really wasn't looking for it. All I can think of is water got in this thing, because they mount these under the car, under the truck, and it froze and cracked it. So that's junk. So much for putting a content sensor on. It's not happening today. So I think I'm just going to run a straight return line from the engine to the surge tank. And I guess we'll have a video series on putting a content sensor on in the future, but not today. Still running lines. I've got everything coming up out of there along the frame. I'm just starting to put clamps on and get things locked down. All the braided steel and 80s style red and blue is all swap meet stuff. That's working out pretty good, because I didn't pay much for that. And the black stuff's the new stuff. So I think I'm to the point here. I think I'm going to put the fuel filter somewhere around here on the frame rail. I'll show you what I got. All right, so for fuel filter, got that neat clamp. Hope that fits. Got fittings here. And a fuel filter. I usually use OEM factory stuff, but we'll give it a shot. Certainly looks like it'll flow enough. And it came with fittings, I think, for multiple AN stuff here. Yeah, this is like 6, 8, and 10 it looks like it comes with, or actually maybe 8, 10, and 12. I don't know. What's it come with here? 6, 8, and 10. Okay. So I'm going to be using the 8s, which should be these guys, and more O-ring fittings that probably not going to trust. Hope the O-rings are made out of something decent. And yeah, that's that. So I'll put the fittings on the end of this, and we'll see how it mounts up. That's in there. All right, brackets in there. See if we can get this mounted. Even got the arrow going the right way. All right, I got it in there. It was seriously tight though to get it in. I'm not gonna tighten it down yet because I gotta connect my hose here and then clamp it down. All right, to get my length I want with this, I'm gonna take the nut off the fitting. This guy here, and then this ferrule that's there because these are PTFE hose fittings. Excuse me. Yeah. And then the hose, the fuel line here has got to butt all the way up to this point right here. So you can see I put a mark on the line. Lines right up with where the threads start there. So that's where I'm going to cut the line. All right, so I'm just going to put electrical tape right on the line there. So I know where to cut. And that'll be my cut line. And I'm going to use a cutoff wheel, which may or may not be the best way to do it, but with this braided steel stuff, it works. With the nylon stuff, I don't think you need to use this drastic of a cutter. All right, now I'm just going to get my nut and put that back on. Probably used too much tape. A little tight. The braided stuff is much tougher to work with. All right, nuts on there. Now I'm going to get the electrical tape off of there, but actually I don't even know if I need to because it already flared out the braid. Because what you have to do is get the braiding flared out away from the PTFE line so you put the ferrule on, which is next. All right, next is the ferrule. This is only for PTFE lines. See, one side has a machined flat on it, and the other side's more open. This has to slide over the PTFE, and those grooves, those locking grooves, will get on it, and it has to butt up to the inside of that ferrule. So this is going to slide over the PTFE hose, and then you got to seat that all the way, however you want to do it. You just pick a piece of metal like my hoist here, push, put a piece of metal in your hand, and I don't know how much will show in there, but the PTFE has to, I don't know how much will show in there, but there, the PTFE has to be seated up inside that ferrule. After that ferrule's in there, they give you a tool if you need it, just to open up the Teflon line, just make sure everything's not crunched, not pinched. Now it's ready for the fitting. All right, the fitting's gonna go in there. Gonna bottom out the ferrule on the flat spot of the fitting. She's tight. Much tighter than my other one was. There we go. All right, ferrule's all the way seated against the fitting there. Then the nut slides back up over it all. And you tighten it down with some wrenches and scratch the snot out of it. At least that's the plan. All right, there we go. Tighten it down. Some more clamps. And run the line up to the engine. It's getting there. Filter is in. I switched from the disco red and blue to black so that the black lines would be up at the engine. The color stuff can stay in the trunk. And if you're interested, this was the filter I got. I'm sure that was off Amazon. And that's the clamp. Again, sure off Amazon. And those were probably the lowest priced items at the time. It's a budget build. All right, everything under the car is done. I've got my lines run up here to the engine. I'm going to run them up from the bottom, behind the brake booster, and over to the engine. This one, almost perfect length. That's all the way to the back. And we'll be cutting it, you know, around there. I got to put the fittings on first. This is my 5/16 to AN6, and this is a 3/8 to AN8. Those will snap onto the fuel rails, and we'll put fittings on and make the connection. All right, I'll start with the return on the bottom. It snaps on there like that. Get my fitting. All right, got my AN6 fitting here. Once again with the ferrule. This is gonna screw onto here. All right. Get an idea of length. Should be fine right there. All right. Cut it, get it together. My mark right there. All right, cut it. All right, get the nut on here. Now take the tape off. All right. Now I got to get the ferrule on there, so I got to use a little screwdriver to peel back the braiding around the Teflon. And there's videos out there of other people doing this stuff much better than this, but basically it's got to spread the braiding away from the Teflon so that the ferrule that I showed you under the car can fit over the Teflon and in between the braid like that, and then you got to push it on so it's seated all the way on there. It's good, and the fitting goes in good. Split the nut up. And since I don't have the correct AN wrenches, I'll just use some big adjustables and scratch it up good. There we go. Run this over here. Tighten this up. That's it for the return line. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the feed. Route it up there, put my fitting on, and that should be about it. All right, so with all the lines ran, the last piece of the puzzle is for the vent on the tank, and that's going to be this guy. These are made new, obviously, now, and I bought this one online. Here's the part number. These were used on 3rd and 4th generation F-bodies, Camaros, Trans Ams, And I'm going to put this on the vent on the tank. What this will do is let air in. So when the engine is running and pulling fuel out, this will let air in so you don't pull a vacuum on the tank. And also it is a pressure relief. So if pressure built up in the tank, this would actually open up and release the pressure, because there's no charcoal canister or evap system on this car. I used to use those when I did my LT1 swaps, but on the LS1 it's kind of impossible to really set up with the OBD2. So, and there it is mounted out of the way, 5/16 line off the vent of the tank right to the valves, good to go. All right, line's all connected, finished with that. So they're running under the car. All finished back here, all sealed up there, clamped down. Got all our blue and red swap meet 80s, 90s, whatever you want to say. Fittings all set. All set here. Got the vent hooked up and the two lines. So that is pretty much it for the fuel system, at least as far as the lines go. All right, so I'll call that end of part 1 for the fuel system. That was all the lines, fuel filter, vent. Was hoping it was going to be the E85 content sensor as well, but we'll do a whole other video on E85 stuff. That didn't work out. I got to get that on order. So yeah, that's part 1. Next thing will be all the wiring. That'll be part 2, because there's enough there. It could be its own separate video. So thanks for watching. See you on the next one.